Welcome to Barks to Basics with Jamie Diaz. I have Amanda Kreiner here.
Hello.
Who is my podcast pal that's helping me out.
I have a different name. Did you think about that?
No, I just came up with it on the fly.
Wow.
My podcast pal. So this podcast is for... Well, it's really for any dog owner, and any dog owner that has an icky taste about positive reinforcement, that they just don't want to give their dogs cookies all the time, and they don't like the cookie trainers, and also for owners that are using punishment, that are using shock collars, prong collars, chokers, and we're really going to dig down, not deep, because we want you guys to continue listening to the podcast.
We don't want to bore you.
We don't want to bore you, but I think it's important to know as far as operant conditioning goes and the 4 quadrants and why dogs and actually all animals, including humans, learn that the way they do. So I'm going to dig down and then maybe we can just give some examples, and we're really going to focus on why using positive reinforcement works is more effective than using punishment. And if you are using punishment, I hope that you can just listen and hear us out and see what you think. So let's start with, the 4 quadrants, right? So one of them is positive reinforcement. Mm-hmm. Positive reinforcement does not, just so everybody knows, it does not mean, oh, what a good girl, positive like that, be positive affirmations. That's not positive. It means adding.
Yes.
Adding something to reinforce that behavior. Adding something the dog likes in the hopes that that behavior will reinforce, right? Will continue.
Yeah.
So there's positive reinforcement. So there's negative reinforcement. So negative reinforcement is removing an unpleasant stimulus to increase a behavior. So that means taking something away in the hopes that that behavior will reinforce. And we're going to give examples of this because it is, even for trainers, very confusing. I know we take the CPDT test. We're both CPDT certified, which is what you should look for in your dog trainer. But a lot of trainers fail the test because they're very confused about the quadrants is what we call them, right?
Yep.
The next one is negative punishment. So I just did that. No, I didn't. Negative punishment. Removing a pleasant stimulus to decrease a behavior. So I'm going to give examples of that. So now you're taking something away so that in the hopes that the behavior will stop. And whereas positive, you're adding something in the hopes that it will increase. And then positive punishment is adding an unpleasant stimulus to decrease a behavior. So that's where your shock collar would come in, your adversives come in with that. Mm-hmm. So some of the examples, and then maybe you can think of some too, but some of these, I tried to think of examples and I wrote them down so I don't forget all this stuff because it is a lot of information that you would understand and remember. So meaning negative reinforcement. So this would be the shaker can. So say your dog's barking. You shake the can stops shaking, the noise stops, the unpleasant noise stops when your dog stops barking, right? So that was one of the examples that I have. So it's the not barking, then the dog learns that not barking is paired with quiet instead of... It's what is she looking at? Not barking is paired with quiet. So they have the buzzer, I don't know if the ultrasonic... I actually used this on my dog years ago. I think we all use this. I used the shaker can. My mom used the shaker can. We literally used to chuck it across the room at the dog for the dog to stop whatever they're doing. We wouldn't hit the dog, but these behaviors were super annoying. That's what trainers told you to do. Put pennies in a can, tape it. And I see trainers on TV last week advising to do this, which is so crazy, but it works. It stops the behavior for a second, like a spray bottle, right?
Yep.
I'm going to spray you in the face when you're barking until you stop, and then that spray that you hate is going to go away.
Or think about your fences, your invisible fences.
Yeah.
You're getting buzzed and shocked until you go back in your yard.
Yeah.
And then that behavior is going to be increased because that buzz stops. So you're going to stay in the yard.
So that's negative reinforcement. Negative punishment is what we use for, positive reinforcement doesn't mean permissive. It doesn't mean you just let your dog do whatever and it's okay. We're positive reinforcement trainers.
Right.
We use negative punishment. So that's if a dog's too wild during play, taking away the toy, taking away your stuff. Game stops when if they're misbehaving, say, Finley's barking outside. He loves like barking at the fence when there's like the kids walking behind. Your fun is over inside, and he doesn't get to do that anymore, right? He doesn't get something to do. So it's taking away something that they like. You're playing really rough with the toy. You're guarding the toy. You're doing all these things. That bye-bye to the toy, right? So we're taking away something in the hopes that it stops. I'm taking the toy away because I don't want you to play like a maniac. So obviously you'll implement rules and do stuff like that, but it's, again, taking away. And then positive punishment is the shock collar, adding something, adding a correction, adding a pop. Right.
To decrease the behavior.
I want you to stop barking, so I'm going to shock you too. It's a little confusing because negative reinforcement and positive punishment.
Yes.
Sometimes when you're looking at it, you're like, oh my gosh.
They're very similar.
Yes.
But you just, you can't get into it because it's like it'll be too confusing. But they like are so similar that it's almost the same thing in some instances. You just have to think of it like, are you adding, subtracting? Think of it as always positive is you're adding. Punishment is to decrease. So you really have to think of it by definition to understand it.
Yes. And then same with negative, you're taking either to reinforce, which is adding.
Yep, to increase the behavior.
Or punishment, which is
to stop a behavior.
To decrease. So that being said, we are going to focus on positive reinforcement and positive punishment because those we use them all every day. You probably use like these, but we're going to focus on those too. I'm going to end with positive reinforcement because I do want to get into punishment with dogs. Now, I thought positive reinforcement was number one, meaning I thought most people used it, and I could be wrong. But when I make posts on social media about a shock collar or something like that, I mean, the response of people for shock collars, for prong collar, that shock collar is not working because that's a cheap shock collar. And I'm like, what?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So let's start with shock collars, which I think are the worst. And that being saying that, I've been doing this 17 years. I used to get really upset about people using shock collars. I used to say people using shock collars should be in jail. They're abusive people.
If you punch your kid every time they do something bad, you'd be in jail.
You would be in
it's
jail.
The
same if I ever I did want to do a video, and I'm just saying this, I'm not going to do it. But if I ever had a video with a shock collar on my kid, and you know how everyone says, it doesn't hurt, it's on vibration, I would have like DIFUS there, like taking my kids away. It's crazy.
And your kids gonna have anxiety for life. People. Like, oh.
But I used to say these things.
Yeah.
Now I've softened because I realize I want people to hate me, and also people are trying to help their dogs. And when you go to a professional and I say, Amanda, I want you to go to this trainer. Amazing. Helped my dog, like saved my dog's life. My dog is so great now, blah, blah, blah. And that trainer suggests you using a shock collar to fix certain behaviors. And you trust in them because they're the professional to help your dog, and you are desperate. It's like, I'm either getting rid of this dog or this works. You're going to listen to them.
Right.
So I had perfect. And by the way, most people you see with the shock collars are shocking the crap out of their dogs because it's just not a device they even should be given to use.
Well, and they don't. People that use it, I actually just talked to someone last night. She was using a pinch collar doing a therapy dog evaluation, and they don't understand why not to use it or what effects or why it works and why it doesn't or what quote unquote works. But I just think it's a lack of education, for a better word, on what it is. Owners don't. They just want their dogs to be better.
Yes.
They want their dog to not pull, right?
Yes.
So it's our responsibility to really help them with that.
To help them understand, which is what I do from these posts and this podcast. So if people come in with a shock collar to my facility, obviously we take it out, we'll change it for a harness, but I'm also not going to like berate those people. Like, you need positive reinforcement with the people too. And you're just not going to get through to people if you're like judgy and nasty. So
Most people don't do it to their dog to hurt their dog.
Yes.
Like
yes.
that is not
I think
their
that's
intention.
the most important thing. And I still know trainers that chase people down on the road. They'll stop their car and jump out because the dog has a prong collar. It's like,
Crazy.
guys, come on. We need to like change these people's minds with education.
Educate them.
Yeah. So I had a dog this weekend. I was teaching a class, a seminar, and you could tell out of control Rottweiler. Like out of control. Had a choker, a shock collar on, and
At the same time?
And the dog was out of control. Yeah. So I'm like, whoa. Let's get I wasn't teaching at my facility, so otherwise they would have known not to blah, blah, blah. So we changed it into a harness. I talked to them. I said, I'm going to help you, but I need you. Who told you to use this? We had a trainer, came to the house, and they said, the dog is guarding. And they said the dog will not drop unless we shock the dog. So every time the dog picks something up, they are shocking the dog to let something go. So needless to say, I won these people over by the end of the seminar. They are coming to the facility for a free session because that's what I do. If you're using a shock collar, call us. I'll give you a free session.
Little plug in there again.
Yeah. Dynamite Dog Training, Lucky Dog Training Club. But these people were struggling even with all these things. I'm like, I want you to bring to the session things your dog, he's like a Frisbee and something else, things that your dog will not give up. And I'm going to show you like a better way. So the thing with punishment is it works. So people use it, but I was pulling up a research. The debate's already over about shock collars and prong collars and if they're more effective. They are not. There are so many studies done already. There is a reason why the American Veterinarian Society of Animal Behavior, which we say AVSAB, AVSAB, they do not believe in any aversives like those. There's a reason why you cannot find a real behaviorist in the world that is going to suggest one of these things, and they have the highest education of anybody in behavior.
Right.
So one of the things that was quoted from one of the research studies is that positive reinforcement creates a lasting behavioral change, right? So it creates for the lifetime of the dog a lasting behavioral change, whereas punishment suppresses unwanted behaviors temporarily.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the moment, he's going to drop it.
He's going to stop. You're choking him or shocking him. Of course he's going to stop.
You're going to have to use this forever. You're going to have the shock collar and that prong collar on forever because they're not learning. They've learned to avoid the pain.
Yeah.
Right? They've learned what to do to avoid the pain, but they actually haven't learned what you actually want them to do and will be happy doing.
Right. You're not teaching them what to do. You're stopping them from doing it without them understanding what you're wanting. Correct. So that behavior will never really stop because they don't realize the behavior is wrong.
Correct.
Right? You're adding something so terrible to them, honestly. That's the only reason why they're stopping. They're not understanding why. And that's why it fails so often in the long run. And
I also love when people say, it doesn't hurt. I tried it on myself.
Oh my gosh.
I put it on my neck.
I hate those little, okay, growing up, you go through like middle school, elementary school, and you get the trick pens. Where like, people's like, oh my gosh, you want to use my pen? Zip. Oh my gosh, that is the worst.
About those.
Yes.
I'm going to start trick penning people.
Scarred for life. I don't borrow pen. No, I'm just kidding. But really, I hate that feeling. It like makes your stomach sick.
Yeah.
And it's not even like painful, quote unquote. It just feels so gnarly that I don't want to feel it again.
And
that's
some
what you
people,
do to your dog.
Some people may not feel like that, right? Some may use it and not care. The thing is, whether you think it hurts or not, the dog is stopping the behavior because it's uncomfortable.
Right. They're not stopping because it feels good.
Right. Because that
like,
wouldn't make sense.
Do it again.
Right? You can say it doesn't hurt. I only have it on vibrate. Like it's still there's a better way.
Right.
So one of the notes that I had here was about, so you were a dolphin trainer, and I wanted to know kind of not the background, but just we've talked about this before, but dolphins and punishment, and how come we do not use punishment on like a tiger, a dolphin, like an elephant. And I'm sure there are those people that do, but it's you're not supposed, right? If you're found like beating an elephant now, you're going to be in big trouble. So why is it that we do not use, why wouldn't you use punishment with the dolphin? Or what was the kind of, when you were learning about that, behind that, on how you're training the dolphins?
So honestly, I never learned that because we just don't do it. You don't learn about punishment because it's not an option. You just don't do it. And number one reason is because animal welfare. It's just not okay. And the marine mammal world knows that. And it's sad that the dog training world doesn't. But yeah, number one, it's animal welfare. Number two is your safety, because these animals are big. These animals are strong. You know, I've worked next to an orca before. Why would you want to, piss an orca off, right? You don't. Or a sea lion, they've got big teeth. So using that, it creates frustration in the animal. It creates anxiety in the animal. And you're supposed to be the one that they're trusting to care for. And it breaks your relationship. And with animals like that in free contact, and if you aren't in free contact, so if there's a divider between you guys, a fence, a pool, whatever, it makes a world of difference. They're not going to do anything for you and trust you if you're not adding something good for them in their environment, or a fish or whatever. So it breaks the relationship down.
So
we wouldn't be able to train
How
them.
do you think it's gotten to the point that it's okay to do it to dogs? Like, how did we get here that the welfare of all these other animals, you would be big trouble if you were like taking a like thing that shocked the dolphin and pushing it in the side of them?
Oh my God, that makes my
Can
mouth
you
throw
imagine?
up. That literally makes my mouth
Well,
throw
why
up.
can we do it to like an 8-pound dog, or I don't care if they're a 50-pound dog or a 60-pound dog. And when people say they try these things, you're also not the same weight of your dog.
So I think that it happens because from experience, dogs are way more complicated to train than dolphins. They really are. There's more issues. They're all over. They jump on you. They're annoying. They bark. They, drives me nuts some days, right? I think that's why. I think trainers give up. They get frustrated. It's a harder process because we're not just training them all day, every day, us, like we are the animals. We're also sending them home to owners, unfortunately, that don't always practice those practices that we want them to. So people are resorting to quick fixes. And that's exactly what it is. It's a quick fix. Your dog's going to stop doing that undesired behavior, but it is going to have lasting effects. Like last night. So I did this therapy evaluation. The dog is great. Owner's awesome. And he seemed excited to be there. He was a retriever. So I'm like, oh, he's just like a really happy, like puppy retriever. He ends up being 2 years old, so he's not a puppy anymore. And then I was told at the end of the evaluation that mom had been using a prong collar at home. So he would, jump and get excited, and his energy that I thought was excitement, I realized, was nervous. He didn't know when he was going to get that little pinch or what he could do, what he shouldn't do, and he was doing things that she had said, he doesn't ever do this because that anxiety that arose in him because he's like, oh, I'm allowed to do this, but usually I get a pinch. That is something that can totally change an outlet or a dog's training. So we gave her a harness, and he was like night and day. And it's not a quick fix, right? To use a harness, it doesn't immediately fix that habit. It does take a long time to kind of retrain out that sort of aversive training. But like explained it to mom, she was all for it, super excited to see the difference in her dog. She's like, I don't know why he's like this sometimes, but like other times he's not. And you can really see the difference.
And I know in the conference that we went to, and that's interesting about being nervous, because you're right. It's like we have them so under wrap with these correction things that when they're able to be normal and be themselves, they don't even know what is right and what is wrong.
Because we don't teach that. The aversive training does not teach the dog what you want them to do.
Yeah, it doesn't. And when you were saying about the motivation, one of the other things that I had written was... dogs, which you just said, dogs using positive reinforcement feel safe and motivated to learn, right? So
yeah, we would walk up to poolside with the dolphins, and literally everyone just comes right up to you. And it's not like everyone's like, oh, they're hungry, that's why. But it would be at the end of the day, they've gotten their full base of food. They won't even, they don't want to come up and eat food. They ignore the food because they're stuffed, they're satiated, but they see you come up to the pool with a full belly at the end of the day, because I'd always go up and say goodbye and give them the rubbies, things like that. And they find me so reinforcement because of what I've provided to them and their environment. They want to interact.
Yes.
They want to be around you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really the point is, and we're going to switch now to positive reinforcement, but you know, anybody using any of these tools, I would say I also don't want to train a dog using any tools. I actually don't even like using a leash for anything. I mean, if you think about it, if I'm holding you like by the hand and I just sometimes yank you, sometimes I pull you this way and you're like, what do you want? I don't, and instead of me teaching you, like, stay close to me, I'll give you $10 if you're like right here, you know?
Right.
And you're like, okay, I like actually need money to pay my bills this, I'm going to stay close to you, right?
It's like, think of it, I tell people too, because they get nervous in the therapy evaluations again. People get nervous, so they've got like tight leashes the whole time. And Pilar, she's great, shout out. She's always like, loose leash, you guys, just relax. Your dog feels it through the leash. So true. And I tell them, use your leash as a management tool. As a safety tool, not management. That is not a tool you're using to keep your dog near you, is to keep your dog safe. So don't tug, don't nothing. It's just there to keep them safe.
Yeah. So, which is one of the things I love to say too. Let's go through.
I stole it from you.
Okay. I was going to say. I said that first.
You're like, that sounds really familiar.
Safety, not management. Yeah. So let's go through some of the things why science supports positive reinforcement. One, it increases learning retention. So dogs tend to remember cues better when it's associated with positive outcomes. So treats, things they like. And again, a lot of people will use praise. Positive reinforcement, you know, I would like to use praise with all my employees and not pay them a paycheck, right? But that might work sometimes, and they may want my praise as being like the owner, but they also are more reinforced by that paycheck. And they'd probably be even more reinforced if I said, hey, Amanda, great job, here's $100. So then I'm like pairing like me saying that with something really great. So you have to find your dog's motivation, or it doesn't matter. Like, even if you're using cookies, but your dog doesn't really like what you're giving them, that's not motivating at all to them. So it increases learning retention, builds trust, which we just talked about. I think it's super important. That's why, especially when dogs come to our school, like the first couple times they're there, like a ton of treats. Give him a friggin' treat every time he sits. Like, he doesn't know you and they don't know me. And like, it's so funny when there's certain dogs, usually the problem child dogs, that I tend to pull a lot when I'm at the schools. And all right, give me the one that says, and all the trainers like, oh, he loves you. He loves me, not because I like, good boy, and like pet him. It's because he has a relationship with me now that if he makes good choices, I'm going to pay you. Right? I'm going to pay you. So we want your dogs to know they're going to get paid if they make the good choices. And if you make a bad choice, you're not even there. Right? If I have a dog that jumps on me, I am not even going to look at you. I'm literally going to stand there, and I don't even use the word no in training. And I can say this confidently. Okay, maybe if a dog was like, go, no, like something like that. But I can say I never, for the most part, use no in training, because it's just no what? No, don't come to me. No, don't jump.
But think,
don't wag your tail.
When does it work? It's when you're no, and that sharp, quick noise can be aversive, can hurt their ears, can startle them. That's the only reason they stop.
For a moment. Not even for,
And it's just like a shot collar for a moment. Right?
Yes. And it's the same with like anyone who's a teacher out there or has kids. I yell at my kids. It doesn't work. Sometimes my staff will hear me on the phone. I'm like, hold on 1 second. It doesn't work, especially with this one back here who's here. He does not respond well at all to being rushed, to that franticness, to that yelling at all. And we've learned that. And of course, we make mistakes. And of course, you're going to yell at your dog. Do I yell at my dog sometimes? Yeah. Knock it off. Like, you're just in that moment, but it doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't fix it.
It makes you feel better, but what does it do for the dog?
Sometimes you feel bad after, but
you can tell I don't have kids. Like, makes you feel great.
Yeah. But It doesn't work. So you definitely need to use that reinforcement to build that trust. So reduces fear and anxiety. I always think of this. So I hate the term balance trainer. Sorry, all you balance trainers out there. I think it's a cop out. I think it's, we use treats. We use treats too. You see them all over online. We use treats, except for it's a really hard behavior because you probably don't know how to train it. You don't know. All you know what to do is correction instead of like fixing the dog, fixing the problem, right? So balance trainer means I use treats for like some, and then for the really hard things I don't, which I think is the opposite. Imagine you have like an abused dog, an abused anything, a human being, like anything. The last thing that you want to do is use force, use correction, use anything like that. You want to like build trust. Now, obviously this takes time with any rehabilitation, right? It doesn't matter. But to truly fix it, I think that using positive reinforcement will reduce fear and anxiety. Like using correction on an already anxious dog, I'm like it makes me like so upset and I know they're just whatever, but owner like yelling or correcting like a dog that's like, even this dog that had the choker, and the dog was freaking out. She's saying, sit. She was pushing his butt down. I walked over, I go, wait. Don't make him sit. Just let him, this is a lot. There's 10 other dogs here. You're taking him to another place. He doesn't know if this is his last day, that he's going to die here. Like, he has no idea what's going on. Just like take it down. Is he taking treats? Yes. Give him treats. He wound up doing amazing in the class, and they were like so happy. But good. It does reduce fear.
That makes me happy.
Yeah. But I was like, I get so upset. People are like, I think you really need to watch your dog. Like fear and anxiety, especially. That is not the time to ask your dog for a sit. Okay.
No, we've been working. So with our new Fort Lauderdale location just opened, and we have a bunch of new trainers.
Dynamite dog training in Fort Lauderdale.
And we have some dogs that have come in this week, first days, that they're nervous. It's a new place. And, you know, I've got my new trainers there. They're learning like the beginning steps of training, or they've come from, you know, aversive backgrounds in training. They're switching over to positive reinforcement. And with these dogs, they're trying to train them the watch me, the sit right away. And the dog's zooming around the room, sniffing, barking, doesn't know what to do. And, I can't get the dog to do anything. Well, yeah, that thinking part of their brain is gone. Mm-hmm. It's off right now. Like, you have to use positive reinforcement to reinforce them for doing nothing. You cannot train your dog if they're stressed out like that. Mm-hmm. You know, so you have to give them that food. You build that reinforcement value. You teach them what you want. And the first part of, I think positive reinforcement is just association.
Yeah. And I think people miss that for positive. It's like with the group class, the dog's not everyone gets stressed out in a group class. Yeah. The dog's not doing anything. And I'm like, just feed them treats. Yeah, I don't care if your dog does nothing.
They'll show you when they're ready.
They will. Yeah. And by week 2, week 3, the dog realizes this is safe, because safety's first with dogs. Yeah. They need to know.
It's fight or flight.
Yeah. What is safe and what's not. And by building that I just have to sit here and eat like my favorite cookies. Mm-hmm. I freaking love this place. And then they come the next time and the next time. So that's probably why you guys want me to get you snacks all the time.
I mean, it is nice when you drop by with some Starbies.
They're very high maintenance staff. I need cookies and treats all of the time. So the next thing, promotes problem solving. This is like number 1 for me. When you can actually see a dog thinking and figuring it out, they'll pause and they'll like then do the behavior. Mm-hmm. Whereas with correction and punishment, it's just like, boom, stop. Like, that's it.
Yep. Like, oh my God, what's next? Oh crap.
So it does not let them problems. Let them figure it out. Why is mom ignoring me? She's literally not even looking at me with her arms crossed. Mm-hmm. This is annoying. I've been jumping on her for 10 minutes. Comes up and I get a sit. Oh, hi, Buster. Good. So now the dog's like, I just need to sit for her to give me that attention.
Yeah. And a dog that's trained truly with positive reinforcement We'll start the funniest thing. I love watching them do that. And they're like offering you random behaviors.
love that.
They're like, do you want me to sit? Do you want me to lay down? Do you want me to give you your paw? Do you want me to do a circle? What do you want to do?
They start running.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is happening? Because they're like, this is great. I love this. And they want to be with you. They want to train.
Yes.
And that's them thinking like, okay, what's next? Like, what do I have to do next? Or like training a new behavior with positive reinforcement is so cool because they do the same thing. They'll get to a point like, okay, I always get reinforced here. Okay, I didn't get a treat right here. What else do I have to do? And you literally see them pause and start doing something else. It's super cute.
It's
it's
cute
so cool to watch.
And it's cool to watch them actually figuring it out. What do I have to do? And I always say to like clients, like, pay your dog for the good choices. Unfortunately, we don't pay attention to our dogs when they're good.
Don't always ask them to do stuff. Just treat them for being them.
Sitting politely, but we always forget at those times. It's when they're annoying us that I'm like, you know,
and then they stop and you're like, finally, and you walk away and the
Yeah.
dog's like, okay, I stopped. You gave them no reinforcement.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to stop doing it again. They're like, okay, I barked. I'll just bark again, right?
Yeah. And by the way, most of the behaviors, the bad behaviors are learned behaviors, unfortunately, from like the owner either not being consistent or from. So once you kind of figure out, oh, let me pay them for those good choices, they will problem solve and figure it out really quickly.
Yeah.
The other thing, less behavior issues. So dog training with positive reinforcement, and these are all from like research studies, show fewer problems compared to those trained with punishment. So again, other problems arrive, other not great problems, right? You get inconsistencies, you get that you have to punish all the time without the dog wanting to like do the behavior. And people usually say, I mean, we learned this, they say, you know, positive reinforcement is so much, it takes so long. It doesn't. If the dog knows what you want them to do, it's super quick. What we did learn in the service dog conference is that if your dog is already on a shock collar and you come to like say us for training, there is like a little, like a 2-3 week, grace period that the dog is like, wait, I'm not going to get zapped for this. Wait. I'm not going to get a collar pop for this.
They have to refigure it out.
They have to refigure it out. And then they're like, oh, I like this. Hell yes, am I going to do what you asked me to do? Because this is like fun and this is motivating for the dog.
And I always tell people, and when I talk to owners, I always try to like make it like an example that is related to humans. It's like same. If every single time I saw you, Jamie, you're like, you did this wrong and this wrong and this wrong, I'm like, oh crap. And we get to the point where I'm not really going to want to see her. And if she starts saying, oh, good job, I'm going to be like, really? Okay. And the next time, you did a great job. Oh, okay. Thanks. And I like don't trust those good things at first. And then eventually she's like, great job. I'm like, hey, thanks. You have to kind of emotionally, you've got to change. I told you, I try. It makes sense, right?
Good, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to, there's that little grace period that happens.
There is. Adaptability. Positive reinforcement can be adapted to different dogs' temperaments, learning styles, making it versatile. So, you know, you can use correction. You're going to use it on the Rotties, on the big dogs, right? Those are the ones you're going to zap. Whereas positive reinforcement, I can use with a 200-pound dog. I can use with a 5-pound dog because everybody wants to get paid for what they like. You know, it's just science. It's
right. You think an 8-ton orca is going to do anything if you're shocking them or if you're putting something in their water they don't like? They're not going to do anything. Positive reinforcement is how you build those relationships and can get anything, right? If you can get a big whale to do something, you can get, you know, one of those breeds that's maybe harder to train or, you know, might be aggressive or reactive. It literally, you guys, it does so much good.
And listen, 50% is DNA. So you could do everything right, socialize your dog, use positive reinforcement their whole life, and they still have these like knucklehead behaviors that you're like, what the heck? I've done everything wrong. That's what I'm right. That's why I'm like, now I must have to go to correction but it is DNA. So sometimes you'll need other things to kind of help the dog, whether it's medication or a more intense behavior plan. But you will get the dog to a certain point using positive reinforcement. The next one, scientifically validated. So numerous studies indicate that positive reinforcement leads to better training outcomes compared to punishments. There have been tests on this. I know there was just a shock collar test done that stirred a lot of controversy with some big shock collar people. And, you know, the dogs, it said, I think like 85% or something crazy number of the dogs winced the first couple times that they were shocked. And I mean, then some of them were thrown out of the study because they were shocked so many times and not performing the behavior or stopping the behavior. It was like kind of crazy. So the science is already there. There are some amazing studies. Again, I'm not a scientist, and that's where the behaviorists come in. That's where the behaviorists know all of the study. They've written the studies. They've actually have data on doing the studies. So it is validated that positive reinforcement does work better, and it does cause psychological damage using other punitive and breaks your trust with the owner.
You guys, this is why teachers aren't allowed to whack their kids with a ruler anymore in school. You're not allowed to do it to a human anymore. Yeah. Right? It's a living thing.
I think it's so crazy that we have not
to do that to anything.
Progress. Even if you say it doesn't hurt, again, I would be in big trouble if I put one of these collars on one of my kids that didn't hurt to get them to do a behavior. It's crazy to me. Right. Enhances motivation. We already said. Totally enhances motivation. A dog that's motivated is going to, so we were talking about, I've said this before because I think it's kind of amazing with, I give for crate training, you will give my dog a treat in the crate till they die, 15 years, 16 years. People say, oh, I don't have to give a treat in the crate anymore. Yeah, I don't have to either. He'll go in the crate, but I want it to be really strong. So now when I open that cookie jar of and clients have sent me videos of this. It's so crazy. It's they're amazed to see it when they've paid their dog so much. I'm not bribing him. I'm not taking the cookie and being like, come on, let's go. I open the jar and my dog is down the hallway sitting, waiting for me in the crate. Because he's gotten paid so much. He's like, you want me to go in the crate? Hell yeah. I'll meet you there. And that's he's out.
When owners are like, I don't want to give my dog treats anymore. I'm like, why?
Kills me.
Why not? I get it if maybe you don't have a treat on you. You don't want your dog to not get the treat and act up. But if one time you don't have a treat on you, it's not going to break the dog. But it's just going to, that one time they don't get a treat. Whatever, right? It's it just helps. It's so irritating when people say that. I'm like, okay, your dog's behavior is going to break down.
You've been dealing with this a lot lately, but I think people think you don't have to give your dog a treat for sit every time, right? Your dog sit and you're like, we're not power feeding the dog. For your dogs that are advanced, go to your place, Finley, sit, stay, go get the door, open the door, get the delivery, shut it. Okay, free, give him a treat, right? I'm not boom, 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 every single second. We're chaining those behaviors to be able to, you have to do all of these things, and we're not even going to get into secondary reinforcers, but you don't need to treat every time in that way. But if you walk out your door, and as soon as you walk out your door, you do a watch me, and the dog has to give you that eye contact, and you give him a reward. Now your dog's like, wait a second, do we have cookies on this walk? I might try to be, but then you can reward those good choices. This dog always barks at Henry, the neighbor, every time. And he doesn't bark, good boy treat, right? So that you have those opportunities to pay your dog for their good choices. Yeah.
Your dogs don't get to leave the house and go to work and have drinks with friends and get the motivation that way. They're at home all day long. You are their motivation. And if you're not doing anything, what a boring, not exciting life.
Yeah.
They don't get to be reinforced in other ways. That is how they are reinforced.
Yeah. And good boy, good girl, it just does not always cut it. No. I'm sorry. It just is
Unless you're given a treat afterward, it is rare.
Yeah. Yeah. Enhanced motivation, long-term behavior change. So positive reinforcement, it supports lasting changes in behavior rather than temporary compliance. So yes, they're going to comply. So I used to use the spray bottle. Again, this is when growing up in my mom's house before you knew anything. My dog, so owners say this all the time. Think about how conditioned your dog. Now think if you all right, I'm going to give this example and think about if you did it the other way instead of punishing. So my dog would bark for whatever. He was just a barker. We use a spray bottle, water spray. After a few times, you would just have to, I didn't have to spray. So this is what you say with the shock, people say with the shock collar. Oh, I just thought of this. This is what people say. I don't even have to shock anymore. I just have it on him And he acts good. I don't even have to shock anymore. So now with the water bottle, I don't even have to spray it anymore. I was able to just bring it out, and my dog would stop barking and just kind of like cower away and go do whatever.
Because he's terrified.
Yeah. So people will say like, I don't even have to spray it. Think of what you've done to your dog psychologically. Think if you did it the other way. When he stopped barking on his own, you gave him a treat. And he stops barking for a couple seconds and you give him a treat. Yeah. Right? And now it's like your dog has learned, oh, this is the behavior you want.
That's when I get good stuff. Yeah, my mom does, she had a Boston. And every time she would jump, she'd with a Gatorade bottle full of coins. And she's like, oh, it works though. Now I just same thing. I just grab it. And it's just so hard for people to get that out of it. But this works. They stop. And I'm like, okay, just ignore her when she stops. Give her something, you know. It's just so, I don't know. I guess it's probably because like I studied this. And, like I just don't know why it's such a hard thing to like understand.
Because I did it. I did the shaker can. I did the spray bottle. Yeah. Like I did it and it did work. But now when you think like, oh my God, all I had to do is if you're thinking, all I have to do is put that collar on. I don't even have to zap anymore. That's how scared the dog is. Yeah. All I have to do is pull out my water bottle and the dog kind of like.
He's like, goodbye, I'm going to go hide.
Yeah, they've just learned not to get, have those feel uncomfortable. Yeah. That's all they've learned to do. They haven't learned why you're stopping. Why am I not barking at this time? They've just learned.
The fear takes over.
Yeah.
We need to do an episode. I'm just thinking while you're talking with the spray bottle, when aversives backfire. Because I love when they're like,
love the water.
Yes. And the retrievers are like, yes, spray me again. Yes. That would be so fun.
Yes.
So fun.
We will go over that too. And then the last thing was, that positive reinforcement aligns with scientific research, but also enhances the well-being and happiness of the dog, making training more rewardable experience for both you, the dog, and whoever the trainer is. I would say, and I would challenge people or want to challenge people. If you are using any of these things, think of how you can not use them, right? Think about little things like hire a professional that can help you actually understand behavior and not somebody that's, I'm going to use cookies until this doesn't work. Because I will tell you, I've been doing this, like I said, for 17 years and I have never, besides with growing up, in my professional career, I have never had to use any of these methods. And I actually, one of the reasons I got into dog training was somebody on TV and I was watching him on TV and I thought it was magical, right? So then I went to dog training school and learned the 4 quadrants that we talked about. And I was like, wow, that is that is terrible. These dogs you're using fear, you're using, and I don't want, just like anybody in your life, your family, your kids, I don't want them to be intimidated with fear. I want them to enjoy being around me. And it's I don't know why we can't get it through for our dogs.
Listen, people, that's why you have childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's why y'all probably need a therapist, because of that happening when you're younger, or yelling or hitting or things like that. That's why your dogs 9 times out of 10 later in life have issues.
I mean, you do remember there are certain things that happen to you, and the same with your dogs. I think that once we know better, like you were talking about the rulers, like my mom used to get, and she went to Catholic school, just saying. She did. Used to get slapped with the ruler. That's what they did. I think they put them in the closet. They did
oh my
crazy
gosh
things. They made my mom.
Closet.
She was chewing gum. It's she didn't have her hair back or something. They made her cut her hair like a boy. Crazy stories that you're oh my God. So I feel it's
is your mom okay?
Ruth, all right.
Ruth, are you okay?
Yeah. She's still in therapy. No, I'm just kidding. But when you know better, you do better, right? Yeah. We know better now to not do certain things. So I think as owners, when you know better, you're going to be I even talk to clients. Sometimes they're oh my God, why? It's all becoming clear to me now. Why didn't I think of this before? Why didn't I, there's going to be people out there that are going to, no matter what, want to use those aversive techniques. And this dog would have died if, we didn't save it and whatever. But I don't want to put those dogs in the public either. I don't want a trainer shocking this dog to submission that he listens, and then I'm going to adopt him with my family and my kids, because the fallout is going to be a bite. And we've seen it so many times. Unfortunately, I work closely with the behaviorist in the area, and we get the dogs after the shock collars, after they've bitten, after now they're literally a mess.
Right.
So
they're associating that eventually with you.
Yeah.
If there's pizza and I'm hungry and you're holding me by my shirt and I can't get there, eventually I'm like, Jamie, let me go. And I'm mad at you.
Yeah.
Not that you're holding me.
Yes.
Right. So that's why those dogs redirect and bite.
Yeah. I would say, obviously we can talk about this for 17 hours, but I really just wanted to have people listen that are using correction and know that there is a better way. Yep. And if you are using positive reinforcement techniques, make it count. Like, pay your dog for those good choices. Like, make those things count, because the reward is going to be 14, 16 years of your dog loving to work for you, trusting you, and just being a good all around, mate for you. Like what did I call you before?
Podcast pal. Was that what it was?
Okay. Anyway. Barks to Basic with Jamie Diaz. You can listen to us. We have Dynamite Dog Training, Lucky Dog Training Club. If you're in South Florida, come see us. Come say hi with your dog. Do a free evaluation and say hello. But also Barks to Basic on anywhere you can listen to podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I was on iHeartRadio today. You can get from the podcast. Yeah, iHeartRadio, podcast, Audible, all of them. And you can find our social media. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at Dynamite Dog Training. You can find us there. Thank you for listening. I hope that you learned something and you can just keep an open mind and use that positive reinforcement.
Da, da, da.